Cell.
To sell.
Yeah. Hey everyone, welcome back to Cells to Sell.
Dude.
My name is Nick Petrozzi. That's Heem. How's everybody doing today?
What's up?
Okay, do you not want to do
No,
this?
I was just playing around.
You got it.
You know,
Okay, all right.
I want to act surprised.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I thought you got like offended for a second. No, we're back.
Yeah.
We're back. It's been a while since we've recorded. We've just been busy with our lives, busy with everything, and that's how it goes sometimes, but we love bringing you guys episodes, especially on Fridays. We get to talk about some science. So what are we talking about today, Heem?
Well, first off, you know what's crazy? We say, like, we're back, but technically we've been uploading consistently, so we haven't left. But, like, we record episodes so back-to-back. Some days, like, we record a bunch in one day. So, like, we feel like we haven't been back together in so long, but you guys have seen videos consistently.
We see you guys every Tuesday, Friday if you tune in, and we want to say thank you for that. We also want to say, if you do like these videos, please comment, please hit the like button, please subscribe. We really appreciate it. We know we're small, but we're trying to grow. We really want to get this information out to a lot of people. We think it's really it eventually will change the world. Heem and I have been talking behind the scenes, and I'm going to plant the seed. In 2 weeks, we have something really cool coming out where it's really collaborative with a lot of things here at Case, and we think that it's a really cool step in the right direction. And we're really excited to show you guys. Whether you're interested in science, technology, regenerative medicine, anything, you're going to think it's so cool. Like, I think my grandfather would think it's so cool. And he taught health class in like high school, but like they have nothing like this. Or they had nothing like this. So
that's enough.
All right, that's enough. I'm just so excited.
Yeah.
It's so cool. I think, and it's something that's it's not just a one-off thing. Like, it's gonna be around this podcast for a while, and it might open up some really cool opportunities for us and you guys as well. So, all right, what are we talking about today?
So, cells to sell. Finally, we told you guys in a trivia earlier, the entrepreneurship trivia, that we'll be going over companies in the industry. And some therapies they've developed. So today we're going to go over exactly that. And on your screen right now, you'll see we're going over a presentation that me and fellow classmates made in the past year. Shout out to Ghazi and shout out to Lauren. But we're going over a CAR-T therapy developed by Bristol Myers Squibb. And the CAR-T therapy is called Abecma. So,
yeah.
A little bit about Bristol Myers?
Yeah. Bristol Myers is based in New York. They're a biopharmaceutical company focused on the treatment of a lot of cancers. So this drug focuses on myelomas, correct? We'll get to that in a second. So in total, they've raised over $6.1 billion in funding, which just goes to show you how much money it takes to keep a biopharmaceutical company, above the water and being successful in this market. So they make about $42.5 billion in revenue. Since their founding, and they were founded in 1887, so they've been around for a long time, creating drugs for a long time. So they're not new to this landscape, but they're definitely taking a dive into these anti-cancer medicines. So, really quickly to review multiple myeloma. Multiple myeloma is a liquid cancer. It's a cancer of the blood. It forms in plasma cells and accumulates in the bone marrow. With the production of abnormal proteins, you're going to see a lot of problems throughout the entire body, especially since, liquid cancers are systemic. They're not just tumors in one spot. Multiple myeloma is also more common in males rather than females. And symptoms, you see frequent infections, bone problems, reduced kidney function, and anemia. And that makes sense because your blood is going to be the first line of defense since it has the immune system flowing through it. Bone problems, obviously, if you have multiple myeloma, it's going to happen in the progenitor cells in the bone marrow. So you're going to have weak cells and weak bones, and kidney function and anemia kind of just come with, having a poor circulatory system at that point with the cancer. So take it away about the drug.
So this particular therapy is their market name is called Abecma, and this is the first CAR-T therapy that's been approved to treat this disease that Nick just went over called multiple myeloma, MM. It's an orphan drug, meaning that it treats enough people in the world to be considered like an orphan drug where you get a bunch of government incentives to develop this kind of therapy. Because sometimes if a therapy unfortunately does not affect millions and millions of people. It's economically not worth pursuing because those patients, first of all, can't pay millions of dollars. So if there's a treatment or a disease that affects hundreds of millions of people, you can charge lower for it because so many people are going to take it, so you get more money. But if there's just a few people getting a disease, it takes hundreds of million dollars to make it through clinical trials. So to recoup some of that money, you have to charge each patient way, way more. And that's just not feasible. So an orphan drug is something the government incentivizes for big companies like Bristol Myers.
One thing I want to say about like these kinds of companies and these kinds of drugs is like, society's fighting for medicine, like affordable medicine, right, to these very complicated issues. And the sad part about it is, it's business. They have to make money back. It takes a lot of money to create these drugs and get them onto the market and make them available for people to use. But I have a bad feeling that medicine's just going to keep getting more and more expensive as we move into these cell therapies, until we find like a really good like regulatory way to, a really an easier pathway really to go from bench to bedside to go into the market.
Sometimes I think organs on a chip could be your new clinical trials, because if they become very predictive of how things are in your body, imagine you just have this entire chip system, all these different types of organs, you're just testing on a person, and you're just like, you can. Anyways,
it would change like it would change
everything,
like GMP and all that regular stuff.
But going back to this therapy, it's on autologous T cell therapy, meaning that I can take my own T cells, engineer them to target the specific cancer, and give them back to myself. So autologous means back to myself, so I can be my own donor. And there's 260 to 500 million viable CAR-positive T cells. So each T cell, they pretty much count it. They'll take like a little sample, and based on how much of the sample they collected and how many cells are in this, they'll say, okay, in this big dose that we actually have, there's these many. So they ratio it out so you don't have to count and put these cells through a whole machine. But that's just some specification. But basically, it takes a lot of cells to target the specific cancer, because it's a blood cancer. It's going to be everywhere in your body. And for this specific treatment, there's a 4-week follow-up period. So patients who get this treatment have to follow up every 4 weeks, so every month, to see how they're doing, because the FDA needs to know everything about a clinical trial. So if you're getting a treatment like this, they're going to see how you're following up. First of all, they're going to know everything about you, your background, your history, your disease history, your health and everything, your comorbidities. And then based on how you react to the CAR T, they'll say, okay, this is safe for these kinds of people who have diabetes, not for people who have this. So it's a really good thing to have a lot of data. And there's some adverse reactions. Obviously, that is why we have a lot of data, and that's why we have follow-ups. Nothing is perfect, and especially when you're talking about immune systems, there's a lot of complicated things. So there's neutropenia, CRS, you can get infections, thrombocytopenia, and leukopenia.
Yeah, so this treatment is available in, only at certified treatment centers. So one thing that I think we've gotten into is on this podcast is like stem cell tourism, or like medical tourism. So these are really only at certified treatment centers, and this would be very hard to fudge. I think this would be very hard to fake, but patients have to get referred by physicians. Obviously, you have to go through the whole screening process to make sure that you are fit for these kinds of medicine. But the sad part is that a single dose costs $419,000. That's wild.
And that's not even like one dose, might not even
right. You might be going back for 2, 3, 4 doses if you really, really need to have a prolonged cancer, like a chronic cancer, which would be, that's a lot of money. Hopefully, I think with it being an orphan drug, is it covered by insurance?
It's all dependent on like
who it is,
the patient, and like how much healthcare insurance they have to begin with, and like what age range they fall in and stuff. Because sometimes you can have, for example, like St. Jude's. Sometimes if they have a charity and they decide to raise money for this cancer, you might have lower costs per person for
Yeah.
this. So it really depends, and you could have a lot of funding, a lot of opportunities for recouping costs. But
Yeah.
a lot of these, so orphan drug for the marketplace, that status benefits more the businesses to develop those therapies than it does the patients. The patients still get some discount off the price. It's still majority expensive. Like $419,000, I'm sure is nothing compared to. There's some other CAR Ts that are $800,000, so about double the price, close to $1 million per dose. So I'm sure at $419,000 is significantly lower due to benefits from orphan drug status.
Yeah. So it's only approved for patients over 18, so this would not be given in St. Jude, unfortunately.
And you know something interesting about this next point, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
So you have to fail 4 treatments before Bristol Myers lets you get this one.
Yeah.
So the FDA, if you have multiple myeloma, you have to get an immunomodulatory agent that you have to fail. Proteasome inhibitor, you have to fail that treatment. Anti-CD38 antibody, you have to fail that, and you have to have your cancer has to relapse. So all 4 of those have to happen before you can get this treatment. And I think there's a reason for that. Because if you can prove to the FDA that you gave somebody 3 treatment options and none of those worked, but my CAR T therapy worked for that person, let's say after 3 of them failed, and then you gave them the CAR T, and the CAR T took away their cancer, in a few years you can see this Abecma, this therapy, becoming a first-line treatment. So if they can prove that over time, with many, many patients, these 3 treatments don't work at all, one of these days you can see this CAR T become like a first-line treatment because it's been proven time and time again.
Yeah,
so
that'd be great.
As bad as this is morally and as bad as it sounds to say no to a cancer patient, it's kind of like proving something for the long run of the industry.
I think the only problem with it becoming like a first-line drug is because of how dangerous CAR T cell therapy can be.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know the numbers. But like the adverse reactions of like neutropenia, like just like wiping cells, like, I mean, that leaves people very, very.
It's a lot on your immune system.
Yeah.
And it
leaves you very vulnerable is the word I'm looking for.
And with using some immune cells, you could have a lot of self-targeting. So for example, like that's a huge thing in immunology. I only know this because I've been learning it in my class, but if you give somebody a CAR T therapy or something, and there's a lot of T cells floating around, but they don't find their target, they could spontaneously just have misfire or miscalculate and start targeting your own body. And it's just like, if you're injecting somebody with 500 million CAR T cells, you don't think maybe 1 million of them are going to misfire or something? Who knows? I mean, it's just like, it is risky, but these are like the next generation of treatments we're talking about. They're going to get very more specific, much more specific, and a lot better. But for cancer patients, this is definitely a big help.
Yeah. So, talking about CAR T cells, we've talked about them on this podcast before. So I'm not going to go too far in depth on this, but remember, you're taking the serum out of the host body or whoever has the cancer, you're basically spinning it or separating out the T cells, genetically modifying them, and then putting them back into the patient. Genetically modified that they're able to go around and search. Well, it's 5 o'clock, guys. They're able to go around and search for that cancer. So if you want to, you can pause, read it if you want to go more in depth, but we have previous episodes if you want to go and watch those as well. So Abecma is an anti-BCMA. I didn't know if Abecma came from. I guess it's anti-Abecma.
Oh my God! I didn't even notice that.
Yeah,
dude,
they're smart.
Abecma. Oh yeah, BCMA. Yeah, so BCMA is a protein that's only expressed in the cancer cells. So making a T cell target only something that is expressed on a cancer cell makes high
affinity.
level of
specificity. Yeah, that's important. That's really important because, like Heem said in the last 2 slides ago, of those 500 million cells, 260 million cells, who's to say that 50 million of them don't go rogue? And they're not meant to do that, but having something that is specific to one cell type is so important in science. Having the ability to pick them out one by one rather than just kind of putting them in and hoping. It's like throwing, what do you throw at the wall and hope it sticks?
The dart? A cheese?
Is it throwing cheese at the wall?
Or spaghetti? No,
spaghetti. Yeah, it's throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping it sticks, right? Like, you're not doing that right now. Like, that's gonna find its target, which is very important in cancer medicine. You don't want to be attacking healthy cells.
Mm-hmm. So, for anyone interested, this is just pretty much how they process the CAR Ts. So, from start to end, from a patient to the treatment, how does it all happen? First, it's called leukapheresis. That's like Nick said, they just take your T cells out, separate them out from your blood, so then you have all your T cells concentrated. And then, two, obviously, you sort them. So, once again, you extract them out from your blood. So, that's like, separating them out. And then you engineer them, so you give them some sort of lentivirus that has DNA and RNA code to start expressing certain proteins on the T cell. And these receptors can target that cancer very specifically. Once you have that perfect T cell, you can culture them and grow them to millions and millions of them. And then once you have that, you put it in a vial or whatever, and that's your dose. And you can also take a little bit of them, count them, and then you infuse them into a patient, and then you do your follow-up, and that's how it's done.
Yeah, and you would count. The reason they count the cells is to make sure that they're correctly dosing their patients.
Yeah.
Depending on weight, height, sex, all that kind of stuff. You got to make sure you're dosing your patients right. So, processing to clinical trial, the maturation of the B cell antigen is very important. So, finding that Abecma protein and finding it only expressed on the plasma cells or a small subset of B cells is important, and that's again the ideal target for these therapies. And Abecma was approved by the FDA based on this data from their phase 2. Is that Karma, the Karma trial?
I don't know. CAR multiple myeloma trial.
CAR multiple myeloma trial. Yeah. It looks like Karma.
For 127 adult patients.
Yeah, 127 adult patients. So,
which is pretty cool. So,
and they had already received other therapies. So that's one thing that can get you to trials maybe quicker, is if there are therapies out there that aren't solving a bunch of people's problems and you are claiming that you're going into this ecosystem, the FDA might push you forward a little bit, get you on an accelerated track so you can get it into these people and see if it works. Because if it works, even maybe with some slight adverse effects, you might get on the market.
So 100% of the adults were treated, and 88 of them had received 4 or more prior treatments. So that's what we talked about, which is crazy. And out of 88, out of all those 100 patients, 100 adults, 72% of them showed a response, which is great because 88 of them failed a prior response. 4 of them, 4 different treatments. 28% showed a complete response. So that means they had no multiple myeloma cells. Common side effects, though, like we had mentioned earlier, of just immunotherapies in general, because you're messing with your immune system, is you're going to have fatigue, fever, chills, severe nausea, confusion, dizziness, lightheadedness, difficulty speaking, coughing, and trouble breathing. So it's like a lot of, you're just like exciting your body. So you're going to have you're just basically initiating a lot of things in your body, and you're pretty much getting rid of a cancer. So these side effects are nothing compared to you getting the quality of life back. But this FDA product was approved in March 2021. Once again, this is the specific regulatory stuff they use for getting approval. So there's a specific electronic record called 21 CFR 11. You can look up more about that if you want. Once more, this is the stuff they have to keep up with in the clinical trials. So there's Institutional Review Board, an IRB, and they basically have to communicate with scientists, like everything, the protocol, all of these things that you can see listed here.
Yes.
The timeline is really difficult to get to submission, and on the top line, you can see how annual reports have to be put to the FDA, and on the bottom, you can see how you have to keep submitting new reports to the IRB. So FDA and IRB work together with you. So they're two parts of the government that need to know about all your stuff. And these are some other products in the CAR T field, if you want to go over that real quick.
Yeah, so I don't even know how to say
Chimera?
these. Chimera, so that's for acute lymphoblastic leukemia. That drug comes in at $475,000. So, it's not just this one-off kind of drug. They're all this expensive. Yescarta is a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma drug. Comes in at about $373,000. And those were both approved in 2017 and are autologous CAR T therapies. So maybe we can go over those in a later episode and kind of compare and contrast the two. So yeah. So today we learned that CAR T therapy is expensive. It's promising too. It's promising.
Yeah.
And Nick can do intros. So yeah, I think that
this was a great episode. This was something new.
Yeah, something different. Give you guys a little visual. Mm-hmm. If you made it this far, we want to try to make the experience as. We don't want this to feel like COVID, like you're in school during COVID.
Yeah.
We don't want to feel like we're lecturing you. We just want to sit here, have a conversation, just kind of talk amongst ourselves. Please talk back to us. Comments, email, anything, please. LinkedIn, Twitter. We're on it. But yeah, I think CAR T cells are really, really promising, especially for these liquid cancers, these lymphomas and myelomas. I think it's a really important, a good step forward.
Yeah. But you got anything else to add, Nick?
I do not.
Well, this has been Cells to Cell once again. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for our Trivia Tuesday coming up. Once again, Nick revealed, give you guys a little teaser, but we have some really cool stuff coming up. But if you got nothing else to add, I've been Heem, that's Nick, and see you guys later.
See you.